So cohort studies after the GLP-1s, and again, these would be the early versions of the GLP-1s were released to market for diabetic exclusive patients. Retrospective studies started to demonstrate that weight loss was happening. With deeper analysis, the manufacturers of these products said, wait a minute, patients are losing weight and improving their A1C. We need to look at this a little bit deeper. What became the focus then was insulin resistance, when we realized that GLP-1s were improving insulin sensitivity, which is the opposite of insulin resistance. Patients were losing weight. And the wonderful question got asked, okay, can we just use them for weight loss?
Welcome back to the latest episode of Aging Backward, Growing Forward. Today I have a very exciting guest, a dear friend of mine, a colleague as well, Dr. Lisa Golding-Granada, affectionately known as Dr. Gigi. Dr. Gigi is an internal medicine doctor trained at Cornell University and did her residency at New York Presbyterian. She's been in anti-aging medicine and functional medicine for 20 years, also is an A4M member, and has a tremendous background in the medical aesthetics field as well. So we are honored and pleased to have Dr. Lisa Golding-Granada, Dr. Gigi, with us today. Welcome,
Thank
Dr. Gigi.
Thank you, Eric. I'm honored to be here.
Dr. Gigi, I can't tell. I've been waiting to have you on this podcast, and obviously, you'll probably be doing several more with
Happy
us.
to do it.
Today's topic, though, we've got a great topic today for our listeners. It's one of the hottest things. You can't even turn on a news channel right now, a talk show. I mean, it's everywhere. It's the pun and memes on Instagram these days and TikTok. It's all about the GLP-1 agonist. And today, what I'd like to do is have a deeper dive for the benefit of our listeners on all the benefits of the GLP-1s. And I think we'll start with, because there are some people that, believe it or not, may not even understand what a GLP-1 agonist is. They know it's probably associated with weight loss, but I would like you to tell our listeners, what exactly is a GLP-1 agonist?
GLP-1 agonist, and first of all, thank you, Eric. And I've been excited to get on this podcast for some time now, and I'm bursting at the seams to share my knowledge and excitement about GLP-1s, which is what we use as part of the serotonin anti-aging centers in every center as part of our care for our clients. GLP-1 agonist is a mouthful, and it really stands for a natural peptide that we produce in our bodies, and the acronym is actually glucagon, like peptide 1. The word agonist actually means stimulating that function. So the product, the molecule, lands on the receptor and produces a similar effect to the originally produced molecule that we make within us. These are peptides we make ourselves.
Okay, so just for the benefit of the listeners, in a normal functioning body, we're producing a GLP-1 agonist. So, what brought these on the scene so hot and heavy? I mean, the GLP-1 agonist. I mean, if you go back just 3 or 4 years, no one was really much talking about this the way we're talking about it today.
In popular, yes, in the popular community, in the common community, yes, in the medical community, they have been of interest for well over a decade, and there have been many iterations of GLP-1s going as far back, I believe, as 2002. And yes, if memory serves me, as far back as 2002. The molecules have gotten better, the delivery systems have gotten better, and their efficacy have become more reliable. But to not nerd out about them too much, essentially what they're doing is messaging to the body to make insulin at the pancreatic level. And to understand them better, I think we may want to just dive into quickly where are they produced. The cells in the body that make GLP-1 naturally, when someone ingests or eats food, carbohydrates, sugars and starches, and fats, stimulate the production of GLP-1 in our intestines. Our small intestines produce GLP-1s naturally. So these GLP-1 molecules replicate that same messaging. And that's why we've fallen in love with them. Those of us in the medical community fell in love with the GLP-1 production, the GLP-1 messages. Now, Yeah, and
So
I know what you're
go
going to
ahead.
lead to. Well, then, so what? What's the benefit of stimulating this receptor and making more of this peptide? Well, GLP-1s message very simply. They message an increased production in insulin, a decreased production in glucagon, a suppression in appetite, and overall that leads to weight loss and insulin sensitivity. And that's where it is. That's why they
Can we
landed
talk?
there.
Let's talk a second about insulin
Yes,
sensitivity. That is
that's
such
where
a
it is.
hot buzzword, and I think it'd be great. We should talk about that. So, can you tell our listeners, for their benefit, some may know, but some may not, what is insulin sensitivity, and why is it so important?
So the question before that, I think, should be what is insulin? Insulin is a hormone that's
Even
released
better,
by the
yes.
pancreas, and an important hormone that's released by the pancreas, necessary for how we utilize the glucose that we eat, how we utilize
Mhm.
fats, how our livers function, how our body stores fat, and how our energy is utilized. Insulin is a fundamental hormone that's made by the body. When we gain weight, or if we consume diets that aren't appropriate or necessarily the best for us, high in sugars, high in saturated fats, when we reduce our activity levels, we don't exercise enough or at all, we promote something that's called insulin resistance. Our body stops listening to the natural insulin messaging. Then the vicious catch 22 starts. Insulin resistance promotes obesity and overweight. Overweight and obesity promotes more insulin resistance, and the circle continues.
Yeah.
Once we realize that glucagon like peptide, GLP-1s, were actually messaging insulin within our bodies, our first outlook on them had to do with diabetes management, really. And that's where they landed on the scene. And that's how they came to attention. Because they were promoting the secretion of insulin, we were very much in love with them for the management of the diabetic patient, which was profound. Their improvement in glucose
Right.
management, in A1Cs, which I think most of our listeners would know what their hemoglobin A1Cs, at least our
Mhm.
clients certainly know what their A1Cs are. Um, it showed it demonstrated improvement for sure. There was a significant amount of improvement when GLP-1s came to market to be used for diabetic patients. That was the first step. That's how they came to be known as diabetes medications, because of their improving insulin sensitivity and reducing insulin resistance. Then the bomb dropped
And then
after
in
that.
doing so, right, there you go. So let's get into that, because I think that's what most of our listeners are probably mostly infatuated with, was the
And
next level. And that is incredible. Listen, I mean, people don't realize how important hemoglobin A1C is, and you mentioned that, and you say a lot of our clients at our serotonin centers, they do know what that is, because we absolutely make sure we educate them on their blood work and what that is. And that is one that we pay attention to, because it does lead to some really big challenges and headaches with metabolic syndrome if that number is
correct.
high. Um, and obviously, then you get to type 2
Right.
diabetics, which is
Which is the
really
problem.
how this whole, yeah, that's a huge problem. So let's talk about the secondary, I call it the tertiary outcome, and now I think is really the
Mm-hmm.
primary outcome that everybody, why it's got so popular. So what happened as a result of all
So
that?
cohort studies after the GLP-1s, and again, these would be the early versions of the GLP-1s, were released to market for diabetic exclusive patients. Retrospective studies started to demonstrate that weight loss was happening. And with deeper analysis, the manufacturers of these products said, wait a minute, patients are losing weight and improving their A1C. We need to look at this a little bit deeper. And honestly, what became the focus then was insulin resistance, when we realized that GLP-1s were improving insulin sensitivity, which is the opposite of insulin resistance. Patients were losing weight. And the wonderful question got asked, okay, can we just use them for weight loss? And the rest, I guess, is history. And the answer was yes. And profound results were gleaned after that, still on the same mechanism, still on the mechanism of improving insulin sensitivity, improving the sense of fullness and satiety, decreasing glucagon production, helping maintain stable energy levels, And all of those findings were enhanced, in fact, by a recent study from the manufacturers themselves. All of those results were enhanced by incorporating improved lifestyle, improved exercise, better diet and nutrition, better application of supplements. So you were better at weight loss if you did the entire thing altogether, the entire program together.
You took the words out of my mouth, because some of those things you mentioned that what these GLP-1 agonists are doing were done naturally by exercise. So if people were moving, insulin sensitivity was always improving. So being from the fitness industry, that was one of the things we always knew about clients of ours that actually were either came to us as type 2 diabetics, or we knew had an issue. They were overweight, obese, had metabolic syndrome. One of the things they would always say is, hey, I'm off my metformin, I'm off they've come off the medication because fitness was solving, exercise activity was solving it, more muscle mass was solving, because they were able to process that glycogen storage, they were able to move it out of the body. So interestingly, one of the pharmaceutical companies did a study with the medication and added exercise. I think it was 3 times a week, 30 minutes a day, not a lot. And it wasn't high intensity HIIT workouts, no, wasn't crazy. And the results are like 30+% improvement. It's amazing over the group that just took the medication.
Statistically significant improved results by incorporating a healthy lifestyle, exercise, improved nutrition, and supplementation. Results were just better.
And Dr. G, shameless plug for serotonin.
This is what we do.
The reason why we put the health coach in. Yeah, it's what and we did it on purpose, right? I mean, you were part of it. We added that health coach in there because we knew that the exercise component had to be plugged in with a good diet. How do I eat? Because people don't understand, like what you just mentioned a lot in that last soundbite that was really important. But and I don't want to glaze over. You talked about healthy lifestyle, making good choices with food. Highly processed foods we eat. Just having a little bit of education, a little bit of knowledge, and putting it into a map is very, very helpful, because that is one component that most people, and it's not we don't want to say, oh my gosh, it's just for elite athletes that do this stuff, or people that are incredible. No, this is for everyone. This is living life healthy now. At this point, it's common knowledge now to know that you've got to kind of manage the types of calories you're putting in, and then what you do after you take in those calories. It's okay if you want to have a slice of pizza, or you want to have a bowl of ice cream, but you've got to know what you just did, and you got to know that you got to get some activity moving at some point. To otherwise, like you said, that
it's a system for improvement, and it's a comprehensive system for improvement. The GLP-1s have helped illuminate this system, but you're right, they're not magic. It's a biological function that they're imitating, right, wonderfully, but it's not magic. When you put it all together, results are not just incredible, but they're sustained. So our clients, we see at Serotonin, which I can certainly speak to, and even 20 years of not having this familiarity with GLP-1 options, and now we do, thank goodness. But our clients, I see a dramatic, scalable difference. They get healthier faster. They're losing their weight faster. They're understanding how to eat, how to supplement. They understand their bodies. They know their visceral fat percentage, and they're working towards a goal for health improvement, for life improvement.
And you've heard it as well, I'm sure. But how many times have countless people that we have seen, but also just people you talk to, that go on these medications, and now this is the 800-pound gorilla in the room that everyone's starting to notice, is they're losing muscle. So they're becoming skinny fat people, right? That's almost the definition of anorexia. So now you get into this. You've tried to get yourself healthy. You've done some great things, and you've actually potentially gone too far, and you make yourself unhealthy, because if there's a difference, and we talk about it like common knowledge, but for the benefit of anyone listening that doesn't understand this, body composition is much more important than weight. Weight is a very ambiguous measure. It doesn't give you the breakdown. So understanding your lean body mass, your visceral fat, your body fat, all of these things, bone density, all of those things come into play, which is why you need to get a good measure, whether you did it with Serotonin, one of our centers, or just anywhere. Understanding getting a DEXA scan or an in-body scan, whatever it is. You used to have to go into those pools you had to go in and expel all the oxygen out of your lungs. It was a nightmare to get your body fat. Back in my bodybuilding days, we did that. That was horrifying, by the way. Now you can just get on a scanner and it's really accurate. You're fine.
90 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, but the importance of that
Hmm.
is critical, because what we have found, and we were ahead of this, I think, in an intentional way, but yet with an unintentional outcome. We always wanted people to exercise, take vitamin supplementation, because we always were big on preserving
Hmm.
muscle tissue. But now you add this superhero medication in that can really speed
Right.
that whole process up. You got to be very, very finite in
Correct.
how you manage nutrition and exercise,
Even more
because
so.
that flip of a switch just, yeah, because you go
Yes.
catabolic. Catabolic is you start breaking
Muscle.
down muscle
Hmm.
tissue for energy, for our listeners here. And that's a disaster, because you're going to be exhausted. And that's why I've heard people say, "Oh, I tried that stuff. I hated it. I was
It
exhausted. I
didn't
was
work, or
miserable. I was,
yeah, I couldn't handle
yeah,
it. Well, to just look at it broader, I get that, having been in medicine and in front of weight loss clients for so long, the advantage is I've seen the world without the proper recommendation. And now I see the world being involved with serotonin anti-aging with proper recommendation, right? I've seen the people who have the patients who have a very sexy affinity for the pounds, the absolute loss. I must be
right,
125 pounds. 25 years later, or 20 plus years later in this business, I've learned to say 125 pounds of what? If you can't answer that
great
question,
way
then
to
we're
put it.
having the wrong conversation about pounds. What is your
Yeah,
biometric? What is your
it's
body composition? Have you built muscle? Are you losing fat? And of the fat you're losing, are you losing visceral fat, which is where inflammation,
right.
disease, and the consequences of obesity and diabetes and cardiovascular disease really, really lives. GLP-1 have a superhero role. You're right. They're not magic, but they do have a superhero role. But coupled with their efficacy is the right structure, the right system, the right support. We see it with our health coach, with the right nutrition advice, the right exercise. And it doesn't have to be crazy, but you have to move.
No,
You've got to hydrate your body. You've got to
absolutely.
maintain and preserve gut health. You have to know what your parameters are, your blood work, so that you're working to improve those. You have to be managed and monitored. It's not just a shot and go. It's
Bingo.
not. I wish it were that
So,
simple.
Dr. G, you hit the nail square on the head. And if you're listening to this, and hopefully you're paying attention to that last few minutes, and in fact, stop, rewind, and play it again, because what Dr. Gigi just said is so critical. It's not just about the shot. And so many of you and so many people out there that I
Hmm.
speak to on a regular basis, oh yeah, I'm taking the medication. If you have no idea about your gut health, and you have no idea about your lean body mass, and all of these little data
Fundamentals.
points that are either in your fundamental, you need to know that. And this is us saying to you, this is the nugget. I always say, try to take one or two nuggets
Hmm.
away from our podcast. This is the one you really want to grasp on this topic, that you must understand those numbers, because you will, everyone's talking about yo-yo dieters and
Hmm.
rebound dieters, and there's been weight loss clinics around for decades, and some of them, their names are real common, and they were disastrous because they would yo-yo diet. This is what happens, and the problem with the yo-yo diet is a yo-yo gets stuck at
Hmm.
the bottom, because when you lose that much weight and you lose muscle,
Yeah.
you gain back, you don't gain muscle back, you're
Fat.
just gonna, the weight that it's all fat, it's horrifying, and now you've got to really start from a much deeper place, and you got to work so
Correct.
much harder to get the other direction. So we're telling you this, and we're going to implore upon you, pay attention to gut health. Like, we have certain probiotics that we give to our clients, and we've got, and this is all part of it. Hydration, essential
Correct.
amino acids. If
Hmm.
you haven't heard that, that statement, essential
Hmm.
amino acids, understand it, because that could be life
Correct.
saving for you. They're simple. They come in powders. They're easy to take. They used to come in pills, and bodybuilders were using it for years when they were
Hmm.
dieting down for a show, because it would help preserve
Muscles.
the muscle
Hmm.
tissue. It was anti-catabolic. So please, like, these are little nuggets that are so important, that you have to understand. And it's not, and I don't blame the GPs that prescribe these things, because listen, they've got 80, 90 clients a
They
day
have
they're
a
going
lot
to
to
see.
do,
They may not have time
and
to
they're
go
not
through.
going to go through
There's a
this
lot they're
with
doing
you. Yeah.
now, but this is your health, and this is specific. It's like when you go to a gym and hire a
Hmm.
personal trainer. It's very specific. You have a need, maybe different than someone who's just in there just walking on a treadmill that doesn't have the same need. When you go to your general practitioner, you can't expect to get concierge style care in that environment.
Not
That's not the
generally. No.
environment. That's not what your insurance is
No.
paying for. So if you're taking this seriously, take it and think about it as if you were going to get a finite consultation, a finite piece of health, a finite piece of counsel, and that's one of the things I think is the big misses, and why so many of the people that have had weight loss are falling into a different category of very challenged
Hmm.
health right now. So Our goal is to educate and put that out there. So, Dr. Yu, thank you for bringing that whole point up, because this is a topic we could probably dialogue on for another half hour. But
Hours.
I want to move to some other things that we talked about, because this is the one big thing it's known for. But Doctor, you share with us some of the stuff that you've told me, but please share with us some of the things that have come out of these GLP-1s getting so popular, some other health benefits that are now really getting some
So,
press.
and that's an excellent question, and it's actually important. It's important to understand that GLP-1s, again, as we said, how they work. They stimulate insulin production, improve insulin sensitivity. They reduce insulin resistance. They suppress the negative inflammatory markers that can happen in the body. They suppress oxidative stress. They work complementarily with organ systems receiving enough glucose and receiving the right kind of oxygen. So altogether, these GLP-1s benefits seem to make sense. And as I outline them, you'll see. They also cause weight loss, as we talked about, but not just weight loss. When done correctly, it's fat and visceral fat loss. That's the goal. So within the liver, or within the GI tract and the liver, we know that GLP-1s, and they're actually going for this indication, can help reduce and reverse fatty liver disease. Some of you may have or may not have known what fatty liver disease and the dangers inherent within fatty liver, but fatty liver is emblematic of that insulin resistance picture, which is also a dysfunction in how the liver functions. And we all know we can't do without our liver. Fatty liver is a dangerous condition, and again, reflective of high visceral fat states. GLP-1s, in conjunction with healthy diet and exercise, reduce and reverse fatty liver. And again, the big pharma companies are going for that indication. Cardiovascular health,
and that's
too.
something that one,
Yeah,
just
sure.
to pause on that one for a second. I mean, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is one. Yeah. And you probably have seen patients of yours in the past that come in and they don't even know. I mean, because there's certain tests you get on the blood work. I think
the liver function test.
Yep. And some people don't know what they are. We test for that stuff in our place. It's important because so often people don't even know they have this, because like, I don't drink alcohol.
Because that's the common thought, that fatty liver means alcoholism, and it absolutely does not. There's more fatty liver from obesity, overweight, and diabetes than there is from alcoholism.
Crazy. It's crazy. So that's fascinating. I mean, when I learned about that part of it, I was like, and it started to make sense. You put them together because you're like, well, yeah, if you suppress, your sugar intake and your inflammatory type foods, and you'll get that benefit with exercise and activity. And I was like, wow, but this is an incredible upside benefit for a long-term potential use of that.
And it's very singular as well, by the way. There are very few items in that medicine chest related to fatty liver improvement. So this is profound for us to have a tool in our tool chest. And we use this product quite a lot at Serotonin Anti-Aging. Also, cardiovascular benefits. The population that we see that are most favorably affected cardiovascular-wise are the diabetics with already established cardiovascular disease, which again had been a subset of patients who we could do very little for, and now GLP-1s are improving cardiovascular outcomes in this population quite profoundly. Oncology, the incidence of cancer, especially obesity-related cancer, and you and I can have an entire podcast just on oncology improvement. Again, profound to think that a medication like this could have a significant impact on reducing cancers related that are the consequence of obesity. I bet a lot of our listeners may not realize that obesity is a cancer risk. We know we talk about smoking. We certainly know we talk about certain viruses that can trigger cancers. We don't often think of obesity as a cancer risk, and it is. Pancreatic, gallbladder, liver. Being able to have another medicine, a tool that can help us reduce cancer, obesity-related cancers, is profound. Another benefit of GLP-1 is in neurocognitive preservation. What does that mean? We know the population is aging, and we know the incidence of dementia, Alzheimer's dementia, and neurocognitive decline is part of that story the narrative is starting to change a little here to say that we may be assuming that this is a given, and it isn't a given, because GLP-1s have been showing an improvement. Still, studies need to be done. More studies need to be done on everything I'm saying, but we have crumbs and we love it. But there's an improvement in neurocognitive conditions like Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, post-stroke dementia, which is fascinating, because that's a cardiovascular outcome. And even within how the neurons within the brain, not to get too technical here, but how the nerves within the brain speak to each other, GLP-1s may have a favorable effect in the brain itself. How is this all happening? Like, why is this all being seen? I know I asked this question. My patients asked this. How could they be doing all these things? Two things. Insulin sensitivity, and I said it before earlier, is a benchmark of how it's working. And by insulin sensitivity, we should translate that. Our clients, our listeners should translate that to mean improved glucose delivery, more stable body function, better energy levels, reduced inflammation.
There's the key. That's the one.
That's
There it
the
is.
one.
Reduced
That's the one.
inflammation.
Reduced
Yep, you said
inflammation.
that. That's
So
huge. And I think that's
that
the one
is
that's
the
tying
one.
all those other benefits neurologically is the inflammation
At a
reduction.
cellular and a tissue level, that is the one. Reduced inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the trouble everywhere. And those are just some of the improvements. I could go on forever on the improvements on GLP-1. Renal function is another recently, again, meta-analysis that was recently released about a year ago. Renal being improved kidney function for folks with diabetes. GLP-1s are going to be in our zeitgeist, I guess is the right word, for a while, and they're revealing themselves to be quite profound. And I'm happy that we're in a place where we are our providers, our medical providers, myself, our team, our clinical team, health coaches are so comfortable in how they utilize and advise our clients comprehensively on using this tool. And that is what it is. It's a tool. It's not magic. It's a tool. But there's more to come.
Yeah, it is fascinating. I mean, it just, seeing it happen. And it was funny because one of our clients, and this was this was a while ago, had come to us. In fact, she went to Kim because Kim was one of the people she first met at Serotonin. And she's like, you're never going to believe this. She's like, and she had non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. She was like tagged with it. Like her numbers were off the charts. And she had done blood work, not only with us, but with her general practitioner. And they said to her, like, what are you doing? Because you're not even showing on the chart anymore. Like she had reduced it so much, it reversed. And they were like fascinated by it. And this is like way back. Like this is when everyone was just starting.
Right.
We were early
adapters on this.
The entry. We were way early when we started doing this stuff. And back then, I mean, for medical weight loss, most people back in the day, they were using and these medications are still have great efficacy. Right. Phentermines or way back when was the HCG diet was so popular for so long. Low dose naltrexone. Yeah. And some of these are still great tools. By the way, if you're listening to this and you're not for some reason a candidate for a GLP-1 agonist, it doesn't mean your life is over for weight loss. Like there's other opportunities than other just killing yourself 7 days a week in the gym, which we know. And there's lots of other mechanisms. There's peptides out there now. And we'll do a whole other podcast on peptides. I won't even jump into that rabbit hole because if we do, we're going to run out of. The batteries are all going to die on the cameras. We're not going to be able to finish the podcast. So we'll do.
Just between you and me alone.
So it's fascinating. So I will tell you that I think the tidbits we gave our listeners today were outstanding, and hopefully, if you're listening, it gives you more reason to engage and do further discovery. I always say, it's your body, it's your health, get control. That's what we're all about. And Serotonin, that's what we're all Dr. Gigi and I are all about, just from our own standpoint. We want to empower, everyone to have good health. And we know movement does it. Things that are free, sleeping well does it, movement does it. And if supplementation, nutrition does it, but if you're have the benefit to be part of a program that has it all encompassing, and then you can get some medication that if needed, that just amplifies your outcome. Well, that's fantastic. But this episode was great for what it was. And hopefully you've taken away a nugget or two from Dr. Gigi's knowledge, and I always do. Every time I sit with Dr. Gigi, I mean, she's the best person in the world to go to lunch or dinner with, because like it's like the conversation you always leave like, oh wow, that was awesome. And Dr. G, I can't wait to see you. I'm going to see you shortly.
Oh,
Actually, I'm
yay.
coming up there, so we'll see you. But thank you
you're
so
welcome.
much, Dr. G, for sharing your time with us and our listeners and your knowledge. You're incredible,
Well,
and
thank
I'm
you.
so appreciative and
No,
thankful
thank
for
you.
you. And anyone who's listening, you know where to find us. The Aging Backward, Growing Forward podcast is going to continually deliver as much information as you can to make your health better, make your life better, and improve and optimize your health span and your lifespan. So with that being said, I look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of Aging Backward, Growing Forward.